Hello world, hello Australia, it's Jamie Burke here, the Crypto Koala. Now today, guys, I've got a very special guest. His name's Malcolm CasSelle. He's a strategic advisor at WAX. It stands for World Asset Exchange. Great to have you on the day, Malcolm.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Mate, you've recently come back from Australia and you've done an Australian tour for WAX. So could you tell us a bit about that and what was the main highlights of the trip?
Yeah, I mean, the trip was really fantastic. First of all the folks in Australia were just great to work with and just really inviting and friendly and very curious. We had a ton of questions at each event we did. It was first in Sydney, then we did Perth, and then Melbourne. So it was our chance to really connect with the local audience of folks who developed Dapps, a lot of folks who are very familiar with EOS, and we had a chance to show them what the new WAX blockchain can do. So it was really fantastic all around to be able to share that and have a lot of good feedback.
It's great to see you getting around and getting amongst the Australian community. Also, not just for WAX, but for EOS as well, the EOS community. So it's good to see you have that presence around.
Yeah, the EOS folks are really excited about WAX because, one, they can use a lot of their dApps that they built for EOS.io on WAX. They can just change the public endpoint. So it's backwards compatible essentially with EOS. Plus they have a ton of new features and capabilities because of our service layer, the microservices that sit on top of EOS. So they can do lots of things that EOS can't do. And of course, we also have made a ton of innovations around governance. So things like worker proposal funds, so you can basically get money to build things on EOS. We have an inspector general system, which we can talk about a little bit,
sure.
Which is more fair to be a guild. That's the same as a block producer on EOS, but we call it a guild on WAX.
Sure, I'm looking forward to talking a bit more about that later on, Malcolm. So, well, you guys, really the big news of WAX that you recently had your mainnet launch, and you had your token swap, and which is exciting in itself. So, could you tell us a bit about the transition over from Ethereum, and then you guys forked from EOS? You know, having your own blockchain-based digital exchange, and what's the benefits of that?
Well, the first thing was that we had issued an ERC20 token as a placeholder so that you could exchange it for the mainnet token when the mainnet went live. And that happened in June of 2019, so earlier this year. We never ran on Ethereum. We just had a token that was issued on Ethereum. So we've been building essentially a whole system built on the WAX blockchain since we started the project. The idea is that you can use the system to build your own marketplace. And we believe very strongly in the digital goods business. The future of commerce really includes a massive tip towards digital items. We already see it in video games. Video games have been leading the way. Out of about $140 billion annually in video games, about $100 billion of that is digital goods. And so with WAX, anyone can build a store that moves digital goods back and forth. And that's really the power of what we're trying to do. The equivalent, the way to think about it is if you could build your own Amazon. So Shopify, for example, allows you to build a store just with a few clicks and you can call it whatever you want. It looks like yours. And there's a lot more that we do because obviously we can provide the inventory, we can help you create the items, lots of things that Shopify doesn't do. But just as it's a simple analogy to see why would I want to build my own store? Well, people want to make money, right? Like folks such as yourself, if you have a following and you want to sell digital items or you want to create digital items, there's a lot of value there. So that piece of our business, which is the marketplace business, is the primary thrust. We also have two other pieces, which is creating the items, which is like what Steam does, and then the third part is payments. So it's allowed to actually use your credit card and acquire these items. So we put all those things together under one roof.
Awesome, Malcolm. Something you talked about in your Melbourne presentation was how you made improvements to the governance model, and you sort of touched base on it earlier on. So I just want to talk a bit about that and the benefits of the token holders.
Sure. Well, the main bit for governance has to do with staking, right? So people want to know that, hey, if they hold on to their tokens and they stake them, they can get rewards. So we essentially have three categories. There's the rewards you get as a guild, right? And then there's the rewards you get as somebody who stakes a guild, and those staking rewards are about 2% for each category, both for the guilds and then about 2% for the stakers. And when I say 2, this is of all of the inflation, which is 5% annually. And then there's another 1% of the inflation that goes towards the worker proposal system. So that means that people who submit projects can receive WAX tokens to improve the WAX ecosystem. So you have 3 different categories of rewards that get issued. And that makes the system very healthy. And so that's one thing that's different from EOS, and we think a big improvement. The other thing is that we have this Office of the Inspector General, and that governance allows an independent third party to rank and score potential guilds so that when people are voting for guilds, they can understand which ones are the most valuable ones and then vote based upon independent rankings and scores. The next thing is that if you vote frequently, your staking rewards are maximized. So if you don't vote frequently, there's a decay value to your vote, which essentially affects your staking rewards. So what that means is the more frequently you vote, the greater you can maximize your staking rewards. And that encourages very high participation rates. We're currently over 92% participation rates in voting, which is extremely high.
That's really great to hear. And I assume that being delegated proof of stake with EOS, like forking off EOS, and having that capability is given that ability now to improve governance.
Yeah. So we're using delegated proof of stake, just like EOS.io, and we've made these changes that require essentially that affect, like I suggested, staking rewards, that affect inflation used for worker proposal systems, Office of the Inspector General. All of these innovations are layered on top of the existing software code.
So something that caught my eye is the Office of the Inspector General, which sounds like a really neat idea. Could you talk a bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. Well, the idea is that we always wanted to make sure that guilds have the greatest opportunity possible to make money as nodes on the network, as when they're running the actual block production and creation. But the problem is that if you don't have a level playing field where people's contributions are transparent and known, then you unfortunately build a situation where people don't actually make the ecosystem better because they're not incentivized to. So the point of the Inspector General is to basically look very carefully at how people are contributing in terms of technology, how they're contributing in terms of community, how they're doing in terms of leadership, how they're doing in terms of onboarding Dapps and users, and then be able to score them and rank them based upon that. And then once all that is public, the folks, either whether they're voting on their own or they're using a proxies, those folks can then vote in alignment with those rankings. And that makes it fair. And that's really the whole point, to make our chain fast, free, and fair. Those are the three most important words: fast, free, and fair.
Awesome, Malcolm. So you're looking at one of the strongest existing cases of the WAX platform, which you mentioned earlier on, is Opskins. So could you tell us a bit more about the actual Opskins platform, what it is? Sure.
Well, Opskins was really the starting point for this business. It is the most successful marketplace in the world for digital goods that uses fiat payments. We'll call it credit card type payments. And so from that, we've built WAX to essentially power the Opskins model, the Opskins marketplace. So we started Opskins, it was built, and then we essentially ripped out what was powering Opskins and replaced it with the WAX platform. And that means that everyone else can then use the same platform to build their own version of Opskins. Now, it may not do everything Opskins does today. You can pick and choose and pull out the pieces that work the most for your business model. But the idea is that Opskins is where you can, as a WAX Dapp builder, access millions of registered customers. I think there's over 10 million registered accounts on the platform today. And you have access to customers who use credit cards and customers who love digital goods. So it really represents a great opportunity for developers to build things that access that ecosystem. And so Opskins brings a lot of value for that, but it's a separate business. It's running a true marketplace. And we want to encourage lots of competition. We want lots of people to build marketplaces as well, just using the WAX platform so that they have access to all the inventory, all the payments, all the customers, and hopefully easy to use.
And I want to sort of talk a bit more about that as well, because aside from the cosmetic gaming side, which being Opskins, so which in itself is a huge industry. Would you better go over some of the other digital assets that are exchanged on Wax?
Sure, sure. Well, one category of digital goods, which has been very popular the past, almost year or so, is called viral, and that's VIRL, virtual in real life. And these are tokenized physical items, consumer products. So you're familiar with Tether, which is a token that's backed by a US dollar and other currencies now too. A viral is a token that's backed by a physical item. So one of the things we tokenized first was a pair of collectible sneakers. And that pair of sneakers, once tokenized, basically meant that if I own the token, this entitles me to owning that pair of sneakers. Sneaker sits in a warehouse somewhere, and whoever owns this token has the right to redeem it, and the actual sneakers get sent to that owner. But I don't have to redeem it. I could literally sell it to you, trade it with you. We can swap back and forth different items. And meanwhile, the sneakers sit in the warehouse and never move. So when we tokenized the first pair of sneakers, it changed hands over 200 times in a very short period of time. If you had actually tried to package up that pair of sneakers, send it to somebody, and then they package it up and send it to somebody else and send it to somebody else, it would have taken several years. So this allowed you to transfer ownership instantly while leaving possession decoupled and sitting in a warehouse. So that's essentially one example. And what we ended up tokenizing was over 2.5 million items got tokenized. And next thing you know, we had about over $300 million of trading that occurred with all these tokenized physical goods. So it's a very, very interesting business, and people really seem to love it.
So that's awesome, and it's just to show the potential of them sneakers, where it stays in that physical location, and it can change many hands. The potential is just huge. So something I just want to know is that, say you've got them sneakers in the warehouse, and you want to know that the digital representation of them sneakers is correct. Is there some way to prove that them sneakers are in the warehouse, or is there some sort of system in place to embed trust and security?
Yeah, well, the very first version of this, we secured a lot of assets in known warehouses. So with folks like Amazon or in our own warehouse, and just like when you go on Amazon and you click buy, you have a pretty high degree of trust you're going to get what you just purchased. And that's where trust begins. After Amazon had done that, what happened? Well, they started allowing things to sit in other people's warehouses, or more warehouses that they had. So they had an extended network. And so over time, we expect there'll be an extended network on Wax the same way.
Sure. And I just want to, something that I did see in your Melbourne presentation was that you mentioned about actually creating your own NFT, which is a non-fungible token. So how easy is it to create your own stablecoin for, say, for example?
It takes you a few minutes to do. I mean, you can probably do it in the time it would take for you to order a cup of coffee and get it made at Starbucks, because it's a WYSIWYG editor. You just point and click. You would deposit money onto the platform, and you can create a token that's backed up by value if you'd like it to be. Now, of course, you can create virtual items that are not backed up by any value. They can trade at any price, whatever somebody's willing to pay for it, or you can sell it for whatever price you want. So NFTs, stand for non-fungible tokens, and those basically mean things that are one of a kind, cryptographically secure tokens that are one of a kind. And so you can create them all day long on our platform and then issue them for sale or deposit money against it to fix a price for it.
Oh, definitely, Mel. So you recently onboarded the Prospectors Dapp, which I noticed on Twitter there. And the Wax platform seems to be a really good environment to onboard Dapp games. So what makes the Wax chain so attractive to launch on, and how can you assist them in being successful?
Well, I think the Wax chain is attractive for a whole bunch of reasons. The first is we have a bunch of users. The second is that it's very easy to use relative to EOS because of all the service layers I talked about. in the service layer, which sits above the blockchain, you can create accounts with one click. You can authenticate with Google or Steam or Facebook, or just use an email and password. You don't need to own Wax to have a Wax account. And then it's very easy to acquire Wax or to use the Wax platform. You can have an account which has any kind of virtual item in it. You can trade it. So there's a whole bunch of functions that we've built to sit on top of the chain, the blockchain itself. You don't have to program right into the blockchain to do these very complicated but valuable things. So what we've done is we've built them so everyone can just use them. So I would say that's the biggest benefit. And of course, the resources are actually very inexpensive relative to EOS. EOS is, obviously there's a lot of speculation involved, so the assets or the resources are expensive. Now, at some point, I'm sure the prices will go up on Wax, but we have a lot of, I think, a ways to go. And certainly today, there's a lot of value for folks who build and store resources for later. So, those are some of the main benefits. There's more, I would say, we could talk about, but I think those are the most important ones right now.
Yeah, great stuff, Malcolm. So now you've had your mainnet launch. What is the next 24 months look like for you guys? Like, what's your main sort of things that you're aiming for?
Well, in the short term, we have a developer portal which will go live soon, and that's really important. So it makes it easy for developers to understand all the Wax features and functions, see examples, and use them. So that's been a big push for us since the mainnet launch. After that, we have a lot of guilds that are coming on board that have registered, and we have the first batch of them who are coming on board shortly. And then we'll be opening it up to basically everyone towards the latter part of the year. And then we'll continue to onboard more Dapps. You mentioned prospectors. There's many more that are in the works. I think there's several dozen already who have gone live with Wax, and you can see a lot of them linked off of the homepage, wax.io. But there's many, many more coming. We see dozens of games in the pipeline right now that are looking really exciting. We have our own NFT standard. We used Simple Assets that built an NFT standard to build the native Wax NFT standard. And we're built interoperability. So Ethereum assets can trade on Wax, or will be able to trade on Wax, EOS assets, and all other chains. I mean, whether it's from Clayton or ITAM or, you name it, you can just go down the list. The interoperability will allow all those assets to trade on the platform as well.
Yeah, I'm really excited for interoperability. Having it all in one location, we don't have to go to this place or that place.
Exactly.
One convenience location is going to be massive for you guys. So
yeah. And the great thing is interoperability is in the works. There are several partners who building some exciting software, so you'll be able to have microservices that speak to other chains, and then oracles that'll be able to see items that are live on our chain or another chain and make sure that they only exist in one place at a time. And then you'll be able to move them seamlessly back and forth. So all of that's under development, so we're pretty excited to see that go live.
Awesome, great stuff, Malcolm. Well, guys, I'll just give a quick disclaimer. I'm not a financial advisor. Do your own research. I'm just providing a platform on which projects to share on. So I like Wax. I think it's an awesome platform. If you can check it out for yourself, what I'll do, I'll put the links down below, guys, if you want to check out Wax for yourself. Opskins, especially if you're in the gaming industry. Check it out, guys. So, Malcolm, thank you so much for your time. It's been wonderful, mate.
Yeah, it's really a pleasure, and thank you so much. I look forward to coming to see you guys in Australia again sometime soon.
Sure, mate. Now, looking forward to it. I'll see you later, mate.
Bye-bye.